It's not every day that we watch rockets launch and take off into outer space anymore, like some of the times we think back to in childhood. If you're born in, before the 2000s, maybe even in the 80s or earlier. But when you think about launching something, when you think about takeoff, when you think about massive momentum being built, when you think about New Year's, right? There's always the countdown. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff, right? At some point, or Happy New Year. At some point, you've heard that countdown. Have you ever thought about why they have that countdown? Right? It's kind of that last second runway before takeoff, right? So T-minus 10. And you can look at where it's last 10 seconds of the year, last 10 seconds was a rocket launch, last 10 days of a year, right? It's kind of like that countdown, that final countdown. When I think about T-minus 10, just the idea that you can really look at almost like a short list of things that as we count this thing down, all right, we got this in place, this in place, this in place, everything's locked and loaded, and you're just kind of checking off those last handful of things to make sure you're ready to go to launch into the new year. So that's what I thought I would talk about in this episode that I'm calling T-minus 10. T-minus 10. Did you finish the job? Did you finish the job? It's a pretty simple question to start off this checklist. It's a yes or no question. Did you finish the job? And when I say the job, I say, what do you mean? What do you mean the job? Did you finish what you started? Did you complete the task that you set out to accomplish? It's just a yes or no question. But it helps to set the stage to answering these questions and finishing this checklist, because maybe there's some things that aren't too late to complete before the year's up. Maybe there's an opportunity to, get one more walk around the block in, to eat one more apple, to call and connect with one more family member or old friend before the year is up. Maybe there's an opportunity to follow up with that last client that was on the fence, or maybe to make an offer to that interested prospect looking to do business with you. Finish what you started and be able to answer the question, did you finish the job? Because if you did, great, fantastic. That's one yes on your checklist that helps you to launch into the next year. If you didn't, that's okay. It's just feedback. But recognize that the year's not over yet, and there's still an opportunity to make progress toward that goal. Don't write the year off just yet. Is there one step you can complete? Is there one more thing that you can do to get you closer to the goal line and leave the field with your head held higher? Did you finish the job? Yes or no? T-minus 9. Have you done a year in review exercise yet? Yes or no? Have you run the tapes on the year? Have you wrapped it up? Have you done the task of going through and revisiting what your experience has been throughout this year? And when I talk about the year in review, I don't mean just what were the most memorable news headlines or events, right? Because that can easily take you down a path of recalling a lot of the negative things that have plagued and overshadowed the year of 2020. But have you done a year in review exercise where you look to try and find some of the positives? One of the things that we've all done and we've all picked up the habit of doing is we use these speaking devices called phones as multi-purpose devices. We use them as voice recorders. We use them as video recorders. We use them as cameras. And imagine this for a second. If you were to, at the end of the year, as everything wraps up, pull out your phone, iOS, Android, whatever you got, and go into the photo album and just scroll back as fast as you can to the start of 2020. Scroll back to the start of this year and just look through your pictures. Find some of those memorable moments that you had a smile on your face. There's a photo of a loved one with a smile on their face. That there's just positive, happy moments in your world, right? We don't generally take pictures of things that just make us feel bad, right? So if you have not done a year in review exercise, that could be the most basic level of doing one. Pull out your phone right now. Scroll back to the start of the year. Flip through the images. You ought to be able to find a smile in there somewhere. Think back to that part of this year that was pleasant, an experience that was good for you. Positive bookends, right? A great way to end the year is to recap the highlights and the feel-good moments so you have some positivity to attach and associate with the experience that you've just finished up. It's a great way to close the chapter before moving on. T-8. What is your primary focus for the new year? What's your primary focus for 2021? As you look ahead, what is the main thing that you want to channel your mind and your energy and your efforts towards doing or accomplishing? Where do you want your efforts to live next year? Where do you want to park them? Where do you want to invest that energy? What's your primary focus? Sometimes it's really important to think what we want to be our primary focus. There might be things going on in our world right now that we're focused on because we need to be focused on. You might have tasks and responsibilities that are urgent, that you don't really get to dodge that responsibility immediately. And so looking at ways to be able to address that are going to be important. And saying, how can we handle what we need to handle so that we can shift our focus to the things that we want, the things that help us resonate at our highest frequency. So what's your primary focus for 21? Don't think about what you're in the middle of dealing with this instance. What is or what will be your primary focus for 2021? Give that some thought. As you mark up a checklist to wrap up this year, what is your primary focus? T-7. Have you set a goal? T-7 is, have you set a goal? Now think about that. You generally have to have some sort of focus before you set some sort of goal. You know, you're looking up, down, or you're looking left or right. And in that direction, there's going to be the more specific element of, do you have a goal? Have you set a goal? Yes or no? If not, why not, right? Have you set a goal for the next year? Because if you have a primary focus, if you're clear on a few things that you want to focus on, that's fantastic. You can now take that next step to start to set a goal and create something that's more tangible, right? You know, a lot of times they'll say that, goal's nothing more than a dream with a deadline attached to it, right? I will do this by this time. Have you set a goal? And when I say goal, it's not something that has to be your biggest life's conquest. Setting a goal could be a simple, short-term goal, that you're going to have taken care of in the first 30, 60, 90 days of the year, right? Maybe you're looking to shed a few holiday pounds, or maybe you're looking to walk a lap around the block once a week, once a day, right? Setting even just a basic goal, a miniature goal, a tiny goal. It's okay to take baby steps, just don't take maybe steps, right? Have you set a goal? So give that some thought. If you have not, consider. If you've already got a primary focus, hopefully you do, then have you set a goal? And if you haven't, the question really becomes, could you look at setting a small goal just to get the process started? Okay. Let's see, what do we got next? T-6. Do you have a plan? Yes or no? T-6 is, do you have a plan? Yes or no? Because it's fantastic to have a primary focus. Congrats. And to set a goal is even more advanced. But when you look at the next question of, do you have a plan? Then we really start to get into, all right, where is the commitment? Where is the dedication? Not to say that those show up if you have a plan, but it's before you're really committed to achieving a goal, you got to have a plan, something you're going to set out to do. And if you don't, that's okay, because you can put one together, right? There's a way you can go about getting a plan created, but do you have one currently? It's a great checklist as you look to evaluate how prepared you are to keep your actions and your energy and your intent aligned with your primary focus, and then to set and achieve goals, right? Goals are better met when you have a plan. Fail to plan, plan to fail. So right there, you look at just a handful of items on a checklist. And the funny thing is, the most of these they're really, they're yes, no. They're yes, no. And these are just data points. These are just feedback to help us understand, okay, if they're no's and you'd like them to be yeses, there's still time to look at how you can start to convert those no's to yeses, right? So those are the first 5 things on the checklist as we count this thing down. We're looking to launch into 2021, right? We're looking to lift off, looking to have success, aren't we? So as we count down the last 5 items on the checklist, let's get into T-5. Well, since we're going to assume you got a plan for smooth and easy sailing, we're not going to think that you don't have a plan. Of course you have a plan. So T-5 is, all right, great. When will you start? When will you start? You think about how often we look to, celebrate New Year's. Maybe it's with friends, maybe it's with family, maybe it's by yourself, maybe it's, at the top of a mountain, maybe it's sleeping in, whatever it may be. The question of when will you start on the things you look to accomplish for the year, just having that question answered does a lot. Because it's okay if you don't necessarily say you're starting immediately on the 1st. You might have intent and plan to start on Monday the 4th, right? But having clarity on when you'll start will be a lot more powerful on the 1st when you wake up. Because if you're starting on January 1, which is a Friday morning, if we're looking at the year 2021, right, it's a Friday. What are you usually doing on any other Friday? How does that play into how you start? Right? Do you want to start on a Monday? Do you need to start on a Friday? Do you want to start immediately? Is this a weekend thing? What is your goal? You start to put together all these places and see how they stitch together. This makes sense, right? Because naturally you say, okay, well, that's T-5. T-4, when will you finish? When will you finish? Brings a lot of clarity to things, what type of goal it is. Sometimes we can fall into the lull of thinking that we have to set a goal that takes all year. All right, you start in January and finish December. It's like, unless you're really good with your estimates, then so you don't really have much room for error. You're going to finish in November, finish in January. You're predicting the goal will take you all year. When will you finish? So thinking about that, you have to recognize that not every goal needs to take that long. It's just a function of what's important to you, but giving some idea and some thought around, okay, what's the expectation? Is this something it's a marathon all year? And what if it's a bigger goal? It might be a goal that's not designed to finish in a 12-month period. It's not a goal that's designed to really materialize completion until 2022. So thinking about those few things, that particular thing with time frame, starting, finishing, it's relevant to kind of encapsulate and start to visualize. Are you finishing your goal in the summer and you're celebrating in the swimming pool, or you bundle down, for the winter time, just getting to the end of what you're looking to accomplish that way. Okay. T-3. What's your biggest obstacle? What is your biggest obstacle? If we want to talk about starting times and ending times and how long something takes, it's like, well, that's a pretty straight path. And we all know that success doesn't generally happen in just this perfectly straight line. So there's got to be twists and turns and loop-de-loops and obstacles and walls and pitfalls. So what do you perceive to be your biggest obstacle on this journey, right? You could be going to, into a new job and you need to make new friends, or you need to be able to work well with your colleagues very quickly to be productive, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're really nervous, or, have apprehension or anxiety about the situation. What are your obstacles going to be as you look to meet your goals? Take a moment to identify them, because if you can clearly see what the thing is, you may be able to essentially transplant that obstacle and play games with yourself and say, well, if that obstacle belonged to so-and-so, what would they do? How would they handle it? Oh, ha ha ha. They would just go around it. They would just climb over it. Oh, okay. Is there a reason that you don't take that same approach to the same obstacle? Oh, well, it's different with me because, I wear glasses and I don't see around things that well. And I don't have a rope to climb over it. So do you understand what's happening right there? We can identify an obstacle, typically, that's in our way, and we can transplant that obstacle to another. And the obstacle typically becomes a lot smaller, a lot faster, in almost a laughable way, where we take and make the obstacle something that's easily defeated. But then when we put the ball back in our court with that same obstacle, it's almost as though it grows again. And we have to remember that an obstacle is just that. It's something, it's a fact, right? If there's an actual roadblock, let's look at this fact, and how do we frame our energy around that? Is it based in faith about being able to get through this obstacle, or over it, or around it, or under it? Or is it based in fear? Like, oh no, my journey ends here because I don't have the answer to this question. I don't have the solution to this problem. I don't have the ability to crush this obstacle. But identifying what your biggest obstacle is a huge step. They say awareness is the first step towards change. So if you're aware of obstacles that present themselves in your world as roadblocks, then you can start to change the frame of reference, is how you look at these and what is done to address the obstacle and to get around it or to get past it. T-2. Do you need help? That simple. Yes or no. Do you need help? If you're attempting something you've never done before, chances are it might be good to get insider guidance from those around you, or someone that you may have access to or can get access to that could assist. Much better tour guides are the ones that have been there a few times, right? So keep that in mind when you're looking to accomplish things, is finding the right help that can assist you. That was T-2. And T-1, who will help? Sometimes it's not figuring out how to do things, it's figuring out who can help you get to where you want to go. And that's where I encourage everyone to be proactive about that. And when you look at this checklist, T-10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, once you have all those items checked off, those yeses, those nos, clarity around those answers, you'll be ready for liftoff. And that's the most exciting part about all of this, is getting to take something like this and put it to the test, to set yourself up for the success, for the launch that you are looking for. And I'm encouraging you all to take advantage of this window of opportunity, and to give yourself that fair shot to launch 2021 like no other year you have in the past. You got your T-10 checklist to get ready for the new year and to close this one out right. Thank you so much for joining me on this special episode. Be sure to tag a friend with it and share it with those you think it'll impact. Be sure to catch it on the next episode. Learn How to See Better podcast. The only podcast out there that'll improve your vision the longer you listen. This is your host, Drew Davis. Catch you on the next one. Thanks.